Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast, Welcome to Livingston, where we invite local businesses, people, and organizations in to talk about what they are giving to our community. My name is Don Patella.
And I'm Angela Patella, and we're with the Patella Group Real Estate Professionals. As realtors and brokerage owners, we bring valuable insight into the local market and community every week.
Thanks for listening, and welcome to Livingston. Hello and welcome to our podcast, everyone. This is the Welcome to Livingston podcast, where we talk all things Livingston County. My name is Don Patella.
And I'm Angela Patella, and we're with the Patella Group Real Estate Professionals.
Yeah, and we are super excited about today's show. But before we start the show, I just wanted us to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Today's episode of the Welcome to Livingston podcast is brought to you by our valued sponsor, Jim Paquette with Lake Michigan Credit Union. He is a trusted mortgage lender who has lived and worked in our community for many years. Jim Paquette is dedicated to helping our neighbors achieve their home ownership dreams and is proud to support the local businesses that make our area special. And I just wanted to say really quick that Jim is just a great guy, and we have brought some people to him that he's just managed to really walk through the process and just help out along the way and just make them feel really comfortable.
Right. He's so engaged. He's so knowledgeable, and he's just an outstanding resource for all of our clients.
Yes, and his support staff is awesome as well.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Especially Vera.
Yes.
she's outstanding. But yeah, and we appreciate that he sponsors this for us, and it's just really outstanding.
Yes, wonderful. Yep. So today's episode, I'm really excited about today's episode. We are just the two of us today.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times we have businesses on and such, but sometimes we talk about our things and we talk about things going on in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And today is one of those days.
It is. This is what I kind of view as my victory lap, because I've actually been going through something these last couple of months that a lot of people don't even realize. And now that we're at the other end, it's time to peel back the curtain and share that. And so in terms of our listeners, whatever they can glean from it themselves, I definitely want to share what I've learned and what I've gotten out of it.
Right. And it's really different for you to be doing this, because this is one of those things as we get into it, you did pull back a lot. So for you to
this is pretty
come
personal.
out and say all of it, Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So it started this past September.
Right.
Okay. You and we were out visiting our son in college in Boston, and I started not feeling well. And I do have a bit of a family history with the gallbladder, but if I ever had an issue, I would just go to bed early, sleep it off, and wake up fresh as a daisy, thinking maybe there was just a, gallstone that got wedged and so forth, because there just isn't time to go get it looked at, but wake up fresh as a daisy and not really worry about it and say, well, maybe someday I'll get it taken care of or look at it or something, right? Well, fast forward to this year, we were out visiting him for 48 hours, shortest trip ever. Left the little two at home by themselves for the very first time. What could go wrong?
Right.
And I had the worst gallbladder attack of my life, and it didn't go away, and it in fact only got worse. And so I ended up at the emergency room in Boston at Tufts Medical. And sure enough, it was the gallbladder. And it was so inflamed, they couldn't take it out without major surgery. So the goal was to try to get it cooled down so that way maybe I can make it back home. But what that entailed was being admitted to the hospital for 4 days. As it was cooling down, it wasn't cooling down fast enough. And so they actually ended up having to do, I don't know if it's a procedure or surgery.
I would call it a surgery.
Yeah. To install a drain in my body to drain the stuff from the gallbladder, just to be able to cool it down enough. But this is like a permanent thing. This is a tube.
Well, permanent till you got the gallbladder out.
That's
right?
true. That's true. That's true. It was just, but permanent for weeks and weeks.
Yes.
And that was not groovy. And so actually having the procedure done, because I wanted to get out as quickly as possible, so I didn't even take the opportunity to go under. Basically, it was just mainly more of a light thing. So I was around as they were doing this. And so then it's a lot of the pain that was involved in that, particularly in the week after. But the biggest thing was for 6 weeks, I had this crazy tube that was probably 3 feet long, maybe.
About 3 feet long, yeah.
Yeah, and then
with a bag.
with a bag, like a colonoscopy bag, like 5 by 7. Like, it was so embarrassing. Okay. And then it's a question of where does this get put? Sometimes at least it was cooler weather. I could put it in my fleece, or underneath my pants. Right. And those that were closest to me at least knew that this was going on. And we'd have to drain the damn bag every night.
Well, no, yeah.
It was, and he was my nurse. He did a great job.
Well, and I want to and you're going through all this, and this is all really important stuff, but you're like flying through the whole Boston aspect of it and everything.
Right.
Right. I mean, so first off, a lot of people have their gallbladders out, right?
Yeah.
And for most people, it's no procedure is like normal, right?
Yeah.
But for most people, it's a normal procedure. They have a gallbladder attack. They go in and the doctor says, hey, you have some gallstones. We're going to go in and we're going to take your gallbladder out. And they're back home in a day or two and they have a week of recovery and they move on with life, right?
Yeah. Don't look back.
But the difference is one, you had attacks before that in retrospect were like, hey, those were gallbladder attacks. But, being your husband, I know that a lot of times it's like, hey, I have indigestion. Hey, I'm having issues, and you go to bed early and then get up the next morning and you're fine. It's like, oh, well, maybe it was what I ate. Maybe it was this or that.
Yeah.
I'm having, antacid or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But when you had this attack, one, you soldiered through the attack because, you didn't say we went out there to see our son, but we also went to a Michigan State game.
Yeah.
So you're having a gallbladder attack in the pouring rain at the Michigan State game while, we're trying to enjoy the game.
Me.
Yeah.
For sitting down. And I'm like, damn it, I'm here.
Well, we had the best seats we've ever had before. So, we were in like the front row.
10-yard line.
10-yard line, but like right, Sparty was right in front of you. So it's like, hey, get up. And you're like, I can't get up. Right? But, that whole thing in the hospital, it was at first, it was like, hey, we can't take it out right now because it's inflamed, right? And then, well, your numbers aren't getting better. We have you on antibiotics. We're just hoping that it goes down. So like,
so you're right. We didn't know it would be 4 days. It was just like any minute now you're going to get out. And then one day blended into the next.
Right. And for my aspect, I started in one hotel and then our time was up in that hotel. Then I had to find another hotel and then there was a convention in town. So like,
change the airfare tickets
every day. Right. So I'm on with Delta every day. And then like every day it's like, day number one, it's like, oh, your room is $250. And the next day, oh, your room is $450. I'm like, oh my God.
And then meanwhile, our poor kids are home on their own, left to fend for themselves as I'm like trying to text from a hospital bed to get rides for our daughter. And,
right. But the big thing is you had the procedure done out there to put the bag on.
Yeah.
Right. You got to have the experience of getting wheeled through the airport in a
true.
In a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you get back home and, for most people, the procedure's done and like you're weeks away from having the gallbladder taken out, but yet you're still dealing with not only the lack of health from still having an inflamed gallbladder, but now you have a bag coming out of you that one, you're trying to hide so people don't see, right? Uh-huh. Two, we're having to drain on a daily basis, right? Mm-hmm. And all of the things that go with that. So
trying to navigate in the shower, trying to but the worst was like as I'd be walking around the house and going to get something from the drawer and then I'd get caught on the drawer and it's like, and because effectively it was an open wound because it could never heal with the tube being in it.
So, the big thing here is that had an immediate impact on who you were in your life on a daily basis.
Yes.
But one of the big things is having this attack and going into the hospital as we go through to actually getting the gallbladder out had a huge impact on your lifestyle.
Yes. Absolutely. Because there I was. Okay. I was stuck and trapped in this hospital, not knowing when I could get out or what was going to happen. And then, the kids. And so just the level of stress and deep down realizing that it was my own choices that got me here. Okay. Right. I love Pepsi. I drink it all the time, at least 4 Pepsis a day, and the junk food and the fast food and all of that. And over time, it comes to roost, right? Like this was that moment. And so as I was trapped, sitting there and reviewing my own behavior, it was my opportunity to say, you know what? This is where I turn lemons into lemonade. This is where it changes. This is where I'm done with all of that. And I made a conscious choice to change my eating habits and to give up pop that I could never give up, even when you gave up pop, right? Like you.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that I've always told you, I gave up the pop, you should give up the pop. You feel so much better on the other side. And it's not something that you need to have.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm stubborn, so I never have.
Right.
But this allowed me to do that. It was the impetus, the spark that allowed this new change.
Right.
Because I'm stubborn. And I guess that's probably what I needed. But it was just really powerful and important. And I said, you know what? I don't want to waste this experience. And I'm going to leverage this to change my life.
Right. 100%. And you've done, like we're going to talk about, but you've done amazing things in terms of your health and in terms of changing your lifestyle and your thinking around those things, right?
Right. Because health and wellness, right? And I don't know for the listeners out there, if you're all in on that, or if you were kind of like maybe how I used to be, where I'd be like, oh my gosh, maybe I'll eat a salad, but water doesn't taste good or any of that. I'm like, it's like I want to eat what I want to eat. That I thought that making this change would be a lot harder than it was. And it was a big surprise in how much my taste buds have changed. So that way I do enjoy water. I do enjoy salad and I crave healthier things.
Right. And it's more, not only do you crave healthier things, what is the effect for people out there that haven't gone through a change in terms of their food habits and such? What is the change in your taste buds for the things you used to love?
I was shocked because it didn't taste like I remembered. It didn't taste very good. It actually was too sweet or too greasy or, and I didn't miss it.
Right.
I thought that I would miss it so much because I had the stuff every day, but, it still sat in the house and I wasn't even tempted by it. Right. Normally, if I tried to give up something, oh, geez, that cookie's still there. That Pepsi's just sitting waiting for me. But no, like to resist the temptation was much easier than I thought. And I just figured the kids would gobble it up. And that was the craziest thing. They started eating the health food too.
Well, yeah. And, it's one of those things that we, in retrospect, and that like I knew that like a lot of the snacking and a lot of are there because you like to snack on them, right? A lot of people have habits where they don't even realize how much of it they're doing or how often they go to it until after it's gone, right? Mm-hmm. So then you realize, hey, this stuff is still sitting there. Other people aren't eating them, right?
Yeah.
But to go back to the taste buds, for those of you out here, the biggest example I have of that is like pizza. So sometimes people will give up pizza for Lent, or like they'll give up something for the New Year's, right? Everyone like does their New Year's resolutions, and maybe they only last 3 or 4 days, right? But if they last weeks, when they put that food back in their mouth, all of a sudden they can taste the grease. They can taste the preservatives. And I wish I could remember, there was a food that you went to eat like 3 or 4 weeks into this. And I was like waiting for you to eat it. And like you had a little bit of it and then you're like, I don't like this. This is, I can't remember what it was, but it's this thing that like, for those of you out there.
Clearly Canadian.
I
thought it was Canadian. Fresh and I used to love those. And I thought that was one of the healthier things that I would have because it tasted so crisp and fresh to me. And then after this, because my taste buds got a reset. That's really what it was. And I didn't care for it at all. It didn't taste anything like I remember. And I'm okay with that because they were pretty damn expensive anyway.
Right. But for those people out there, it's like when you form a habit, right?
Yeah.
It takes time to form a habit. It takes time to make a health change become impactful. right?
Yeah.
And you were able to do that. And I'm so proud of you for being able to do that.
Thank you.
You were able to do that because, fortunately or unfortunately, you had a daily reminder coming out of your side on the change that you were making.
Right, exactly. But the biggest part to me was because I decided. It was that moment in the hospital where I said enough is enough.
Right.
And that's the thing. You don't have to be in the hospital to make that decision. It doesn't have to be on January 1st. It doesn't have to be on a birthday. It doesn't, it can be that moment that you're finally ready. And once you decide, it's such a powerful thing. Once that pattern breaks, then new worlds can emerge.
Exactly. So to go through your story a little bit more, you get back here. You are taking care of your body a little bit better on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You're making some health changes. We'll talk about your weight loss. You're starting to lose some weight. You're starting to feel better and everything, right? But you were at Tufts.
Yep.
Tufts did an amazing job getting you calmed down enough to get home.
Right.
So you could come here to see a specialist to go on the next step to figure out what was happening after that. Because when we got on the plane, they'd made an appointment here. So you made an appointment with U of M to see U of M here, but we didn't know what the next step was.
Right. Well, I sure knew that the damn gallbladder is coming out.
Right.
And I wanted it as quickly as possible, so we go in and meet with them. And the other thing behind the scenes that was happening was, for the first time ever, your family had already, months before, decided your parents were treating the whole family to a trip to Mexico over Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And that was a very big deal. And the thought that my health could not just affect me, but affect everybody else, and that my father-in-law wanted to cancel the trip then. In solidarity, he said, well, maybe I don't have to be there, but everybody else.
He was looking at your health.
He was.
Too.
He was. Well, and that was why. He's like, we can't be there without you. Like, we all need to be there. This is a family thing. And that felt very heartwarming, but also the amount of, wow, I don't want to take this away from anybody else. So that was another reason for the healthy eating, that I figured, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make sure my health is what it is, so I can go on this trip so we can all have this.
Right.
And so when I met with the doctor, and initially, trying to figure out the timing of like, oh man, we want to go on this big trip, and will we be able to have the surgery and have recovery time? And he was phenomenal. Just how he mapped out the timeline. He knew exactly, the amount time frame to heal and any of it. Winds up, I had actually a pretty complicated case because of scar tissue and issues in this bag and everything.
Right.
So he really kind of mapped things out. And unfortunately, it required me to have 6 weeks with this bag in my life, where I really became kind of antisocial. I got off of Facebook. A lot of friends, a lot of people that are out there may not realize why I've turned into a hermit here. And this was what was going on behind the scenes.
Right. Well, and you could hide the bag a lot of the times, right? But I remember, we were out someplace and you had the bag and that, and then you leaned over to me and you're like, the bag opened.
It started leaking on its own. Like, oh my gosh.
Right. But this is a real world example, kind of how our choices impact our lives and impact other people as well.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
But, and for the doctors at U of M, amazing and everything, and they had such a great plan and everything. But even when it came to the day of the surgery, your surgery took longer than the normal surgery.
Right. Yeah. But normally about an hour, it took him 2.5.
2.5 to 3. But then even before he went in, he's like, okay, so we're hoping that we can just take the gallbladder out. But we could be doing A, B, or C.
This could happen. Like basically getting briefed on all of the specific complications that he could encounter once he got in there. And at least it was done laparoscopically.
Right.
Okay. And that was kind of the big fear and the stuff too. But just absolutely brilliant. So even though it took him longer within the time frame, boy, oh boy, he really threaded the needle. And it ended up with the best possible outcome.
Right.
None of those complications.
And the moral of that for people that are out there, A, don't ignore your body, right?
Yeah.
Get to the doctor when something's going on with you. Yeah. Listen to the experts.
Yes.
And healthy choices make a huge difference.
That's true. That preventative situation. So whether it's, just visiting your doctor on an annual basis or all the things, because we know what we're supposed to be doing and we just don't do it.
Right. So Yeah. So you're 6 weeks in between plus the 2 weeks of recovery. So how big of a health change have you been able to make in that? Were you able to make in that 8-week span?
It was really phenomenal, basically. That in the end, I lost about 17 pounds.
Right.
And I'd like to take a moment here just to offer a shout out, because as my husband, the amount of support you've given me through all of this is absolutely phenomenal. He's played nurse to my bag. He's the junk and pop that I gave up, he gave it up right there beside me. And you've lost plenty of your own.
I've lost some weight as well, yeah.
But to feel supported is so huge. When you're going through a challenge and something like that, and sometimes maybe it's not a spouse, right? But sometimes it could be a kid, if you have any kids, or a friend, that having somebody that makes you feel like you're not so alone in going through that makes a huge difference.
Yes, and I've gotten really good at changing bandages.
Yeah.
Right? How to get it off the tube and cut the tape without pulling things.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We don't have a medical background.
No, don't have a medical background.
But I appreciate you.
Well,
and I wanted
you.
to recognize and acknowledge that because you can't underestimate that. So in terms of the success we have at these things isn't always because of just what we're doing. It's because we're being lifted up by those around us.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing to point out. Like when we're trying to make a change, when we're trying to be healthier, we're trying to do anything in our lives, right? Having the support of the people around you makes a huge impact, because if you don't have the support of person around you, you're not only trying to do the healthy thing or trying to make the change in your life that you want to make, but you're also having to confront the fact of maybe other people not supporting that in the way that you would like, right? So it's like you're pushing in one way while you're trying to pull in another way, and that makes it tough. When you have people on the same page and you know what the goal is in front of you, it makes it easier. Like we eat a lot healthier and such.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would point out to people out there, we always had the thought that eating healthy was really hard and really expensive. Right. And one of the things we've learned is, yeah, you do have to plan, but it's not as hard as we thought it was.
Right. It's just taking a minute to look at some of those labels.
Right.
And it was shocking, just a shocking reality to me. Some of these things that I was eating, even things that I thought were at least kind of healthy, absolutely were not. And so when you educate yourself and you have a level of awareness, it's amazing that difference that can make. And then just in terms of making better choices, we ate out at Olga's with our kids, and I'd always get the fried chicken Olga. But I looked it up and just about fell off my chair. And so I said, well, let me try the grilled chicken Olga instead, because it was so much better. And let me tell you how phenomenal it tasted. And to have a new favorite now is really, allowing me to grow as a person.
Well, and I think it's been interesting, the big thing of like you pull something out of the cupboard that you've liked, and you, instead of pulling out of it, you look at the back of it and you can see the look on your face of like, wow, that's not going to happen.
Put it on back, yep.
But the thing is, you're able to do those things in moderation. So once you get on the other side of any healthy thing or something, and if you change your lifestyle, it's not that you have to omit those things completely. It's that you just have to understand that you can't gorge on them. Wrong word, but you can't.
Well, and realistically, that's what I was doing. It was limitless. It was really obscene.
Right. But, the thing is, for people that are listening that are out of their 20s, even out of their 30s, our metabolisms change. Right.
Yeah.
So the things that we could, when I was 19, 20 years old, I would eat an entire pizza. Okay. In fact, quick story. I remember I was at your parents' house for dinner.
Yeah.
And there was
when we were dating.
When we were dating. So there's
early.
like five of us at the table. Right. And they ordered pizza, and one pizza came out on the table. And I was like, where's the rest of the food? Because
we'd eat a slice.
Eat a slice, right? Where I was used to eating like over half of a pizza, right?
Yeah.
But I had the metabolism of a 19-year-old, right? But we learn as we get older, and that's one of the things we've looked at of like, hey, how much are we eating? What are we putting into our bodies? And what are those things doing to our bodies? And it's that lifestyle change because of the health impact you had that allowed all of those other things to enter.
Yeah. And I'm so much better off with this. Like how powerful it is. It's not even just losing some weight, right? It's how I feel.
Right.
I have so much more energy. Sometimes I'd always just feel kind of, or maybe, have a stomach ache or something, or because I sure wasn't giving my body the fuel it needed. But in terms of this change, I love it. And I'm not going back, and I can't get enough water. And I just feel like I'm doing the right things for myself. I used to always eat whatever I wanted and not have a lot of issues or so forth. And that lasted well into my 30s, right? But as we age, things do happen. And we have to kind of, acknowledge that. And I've been fighting that for probably a decade now, and just my own stubbornness. But I'm happy to be on the other side because I feel like I'm better off for it. And I feel like us as a family.
100%. And, you've been taking walks and such, and you were taking walks even with the, before the procedure happened and such. And, you've been able to do this without going to the gym.
Right.
And there are, in Livingston County, there are so many different resources people have to be able to go on a health journey, to be able to change their lifestyle, to be able to have a little bit more health and wellness in their lifestyle. One of the things, we're going to talk about other things, but I want to talk about really quick, like, we've changed like the bread that we eat.
Yeah.
Right. That we're
because bread isn't healthy, and I get that, but we love bread. So the best solution is to stay away from all those preservatives.
Right. So, getting, from Great Harvest bread, which they only use like 5 or 6 ingredients. Right. So we know that those preservatives aren't in the bread. Right. So, and real quick, when I'd mentioned earlier that, eating healthy is more expensive, one of the things we learned is like, the food's more expensive, but we're not eating as much of it.
Right. And we sure aren't buying all the bags of chips and cookies and all these other things. So realistically, our grocery bill has kind of stayed flat to a little less.
We're going to the grocery store more often, but we're putting less in our cart.
Yeah, there you go. Right. And better things. And even though they cost more, we're finishing them, and they're not just going to waste.
Yeah, you don't need a ton of leftovers every time you make something, and you don't need like all these other little things around and everything. But I know that you made it to the procedure, had a great surgery.
Because just in terms of U of M, we can't speak highly enough of them. Just outstanding. Right. Just the quality of care is phenomenal, and this particular surgeon just really blew it out of the water, like just so phenomenal. Really, really grateful because that made Mexico possible. So then here we are. I'm able to set up for my victory trip, right? And go, and everybody's able to attend. And it was so powerful because we've never done anything like this. And I'm so grateful to your parents for this because we created memories, all of us together. And took a billion photos, and the mental health that I got out of this personally was so phenomenal that it was really something special and exceptional. And I'm grateful that we were able to go on it and have this experience, especially for the kids.
Evie said it during a dinner on vacation.
Yeah, one of the
earlier dinners, and she's taken some great vacations. We've taken her to some amazing places and such. But she said this was the best vacation she's ever been on because of the people that were there with her. That she was able to experience it with her grandma and grandpa, with her, her aunt and uncle, with her brothers. That it gave her a different type of experience that she hadn't had before.
Yeah. And she appreciated it.
Everyone just appreciated it so much. It was a different type of vacation where you're able to connect with family and you're able to have a shared experience. And it takes it to a different level.
Yeah. Like it was really exceptional.
No.
So, and just so grateful that my health didn't prevent us from having it or me from going.
Right. No, it was just an amazing trip, and so grateful for them for putting it together. They wanted to cancel it with your help.
Yeah.
And then able to go through that and have it.
So it's like we all kind of shared in the victory.
Right. And one of the things we learned on, so me and Angela love to vacation, right?
We do.
And we love to eat.
Yeah.
And when we're on vacation, we tend to eat a little bit more. I think everybody does, right?
Everybody does.
I've gone to Disney before, like 6 years ago, I had lost like 25 pounds. And then we went to Disney for Disney and Universal, and I came back and I'm like, good God, I gained back 15 pounds on the trip. How did that happen? That didn't happen this time.
No, it didn't. I only personally gained 1.5 pounds. And then within about 48 hours of being home and having my regular routine, I peeled it right back off.
And again, that's about you're able to make healthy choices.
Yes.
And you're able to get great food in front of you, and it doesn't have to be bad food for you to enjoy it.
Exactly. And I did a lot of walking while I was out there.
You did.
But I had energy, and I was able to really enjoy and soak it in. And it just was a very special vacation.
Exactly. So, I wanted to hit on some of the things you've learned out of this, some of the things I've learned out of this. One of the things I would say to people that are on vacations, like when we were out in Boston seeing our son and you have health issues, I learned that, insurance is important. The emergency room covers a lot more than just going to an urgent care or some such. So if you're taking trips and such, it's a great idea to look at your insurance, see what you have. If you are leaving the country, we got some great advice and got some great, very low and affordable insurance for while we were in Mexico, just in case something happened.
Right.
You can go online and research that. But like when you go to Mexico, if you have a health issue, you have to pay out of pocket and then hopefully
they'll work on you.
They'll work on you and then hopefully get reimbursed by your insurance. But you can get supplemental insurance and it only costs $3 or $4 a day to have to cover that in case something happens. So great advice for anyone out there. Look into that if you're taking any trips out of the country. It's affordable, it's easy to get, and it gives you some peace of mind that we'd never looked at that before, but because you had your
well, and
issue.
Thank God it happened in Boston instead of while we were in Mexico.
Right.
And that's the thing. You don't realize you need this till you're in that moment and you need it.
Right.
So much like, health and preventative care, just getting ahead of those things can really make a huge difference.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been really impactful. I, commend you for, going through it. I also commend you for talking about it because I know that you didn't want to be on social media and you really didn't want people to see you and such. And then it was really impactful because a week and a half or was about 2 weeks before the procedure, you went in to have them check it and make sure everything was looking good. And then they changed the hose and they changed the bag. And the bag that you had figured out that was small to work with.
Yes.
What happened?
Oh my gosh. Because I had finally had it down and I was going on my walks and I wasn't catching on anything. I had it down. Well, they had a different bag over at U of M. And so instead of being 5x7, this is more like 8x10. And I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this now?
Right. And the hose was bigger.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, the amount that was coming off of it really didn't feel it big. And what they explained to me and what I understood then was the procedure that I had and that I was going through, that's usually for somebody who's elderly who can't get their gallbladder taken out. So this would be like the alternative. So the life I was leading is what some people experience in their later stages of life. And so it was kind of a gift to have that experience and to know and realize that this is sort of the incentive of, since I don't ever want to go through this again, then that's why it's so important to make these healthier choices right now.
Right. And it's interesting, some of the things we learned through it. So we both have smartwatches. And if you have a smartwatch out there, one of the amazing things it does is it can track your heart rate, your resting heart rate, your sleeping heart rate, your highs and lows of the days and such. So we were able to see in real time the changes you were able to make just doing some healthy eating, some walking and such to what your average heart rate was, what your resting heart rate was. So the fact is there's so much technology nowadays. And you had this ability to be like, okay, well, this is what happens to people in their 60s and their 70s and their 80s, right?
Right.
To have this all the time, you're like, I'm not going to deal with this again. I'm going to be making these changes.
Yeah. Honestly,
Right.
that I don't know that I would have had that level of understanding without it.
100%.
But just the firsthand experience. That's why it was so strange. They weren't even sure what to do with me because I was, going to be getting my gallbladder out anyway. They're like, well, but we always change the tube now. And I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
oh, golly.
But it is what it is. You make it out the other side and such. But I think it's your impetus and such. I like thinking about the fact that small changes add up over time.
Right.
Right. So before her surgery and before the gallbladder attack, you were having small changes over the course of 10 to 15 years that were adding up over time to get you to the point where you had not only a bad gallbladder, but an extremely inflamed gallbladder that rather than just having a procedure over a day took this huge experience, right?
Right.
And it's those small changes that are imperceptible, but add up to a huge issue at the end, right? And then after the procedure, you're making small changes that are adding up to a more healthy lifestyle.
Right. And I'm already seeing the results.
Exactly.
Even just in a matter of weeks.
100%. So for people out there, understand that this is a real life example of how those small changes over the course of time make an impact. So if I'm going to recommend a book, there's a book out there called The Compound Effect that talks about this issue. And it talks about the issue of the small changes in your life that you don't even realize you're making have a huge impact on the future you.
Yeah.
And if you can make the right small changes, you're looking at a wonderful future. But if you're making the wrong small changes, you're looking at huge impacts to your future that you don't know are going to be there in the end. So check it out. It's a great book. I've read it, I think, 3 times now. It has a great audio as well. If you don't like to read, you can listen to it on Audible.
Great point, too.
Yep.
So, but I'm excited for what the future holds. It really wasn't even a speed bump in our business. Our clients, they weren't even aware of it. It was a matter of, by the way, I just had my gallbladder out 2 days ago. Like, what?
No, you had a couple clients that you told you were sitting at a closing table with one of them, and they're like, what?
Yeah. Just because, I knew it'd be coming out with it sooner or later and whatnot. But in terms of our living and being realtors, if you're not working, then you're not getting paid.
Right.
So that's why it's important to just still be out there hustling and working hard and our business still continued on. And thanks to you for, taking on more of that share. So I'm grateful for that as well, too. Yep. But I'm looking forward to what comes next because this is all behind me now. And this is what I do with it. What the next year holds. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of great guests coming in the coming weeks and months. But to me, this is a new beginning. To me, this is a new lease on life. And to me, the opportunities and possibilities are just absolutely limitless.
Right, because you've made a permanent change.
Because I decided.
You decided. I
decided to make a change.
And that's a real quick, for people out there that are thinking about making a change, remember, it's all the things that lead up to that moment that allow you to flip that switch. You've been working on that change. You just need an impetus to make that change, right? Because if you hadn't even been thinking about making healthy changes, if you had been like, this is who I am, I'm not going to change, having this issue come up may have caused you to make a little bit of a change for a little while, but it's not a permanent change unless you've mentally been working on preparing yourself, knowing that, hey, I need to do something about this.
Like an iceberg below the surface.
Exactly.
Right. It's that final spark. You talk about the duck sometimes too.
Yes.
Yeah. Why don't you?
Yeah. So the idea of the duck is when you see a duck going across the water, it looks effortless.
Gliding across the water.
It's gliding across the water. You're like, that looks so easy. It's peaceful. But if you look below the surface, you see the fin, the legs moving 100 miles an hour. There's so much happening that you can't see. And when we look at people and changes and things that are going on, we look from the outside, we're like, wow, they look like they have it all together. Everything's going great, but you don't see what's happening below the surface.
Right.
And it's the work that you're doing below the surface that allows it to look so effortless on top, or to look so peaceful, because you're doing the hard work.
Or to get to where you want to go, right?
To get to where you want to go.
So much below, so much that has to happen before.
Right.
And that's okay, because it doesn't matter what your spark is. Just keep building and moving towards what you're wanting and have in your head, and you'll be able to have your own new beginning when you're ready and when you make your decision.
Well, it's like Tony Robbins says all the time, right?
Yeah.
He says that, it just, you had that moment, you were like, not anymore.
Yeah.
Now's the time. I'm going to do this. It's, people all the time, they're, they go cold turkey on something, right?
Yeah.
Right. But there was something that led up to that. There was something that happened that made an impact in their mind, to say, that allowed them to have that cold turkey moment, right? So you need that impetus. You need that big why.
You need a spark.
You need a spark, yeah.
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be anything hard and fast. You get to decide what it is.
You get to decide what it is. But you had a spark, and it's been in retrospect.
Yeah.
Hard experience, good experience?
Positive experience.
Positive experience.
Probably hard experience. But really good experience. Really positive, because it's that old expression, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
Right.
Like, leverage that, turn something negative into something positive, and you can really be unstoppable.
Yep. No, and it's been really impactful. It's been impactful for you. It's been impactful for me. It's been impactful for the kids, right?
And I appreciate everybody that helped me out along the way. All of the medical professionals between Tufts and U of M, the support from my husband and my family, my extended family, the in-laws, and this fantastic trip. This whole story, I'm ready to bring to a close and start the next story and see what the new year is going to bring for me.
Wonderful. No, it's been good, and it's been great to see the changes you've made, and it's been great to be along a journey of getting a little bit healthier, and also having something confront you that, instead of letting it pull you down,
right,
you manage to help it pull you up, because everyone has that choice when something comes in front of them that confronts them.
Yeah.
Do you stop and do you go, woe is me?
Yeah.
Or do you say, okay, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to turn this into a positive? How am I going to allow, because it's going to impact your life either way.
Yeah.
And you have a choice on whether you choose to have it be a positive impact or whether it's a negative impact. And that choice is, so impactful to the future of you within that situation.
And for me, for our kids to see firsthand, front row seats, because they're going to face adversity in their lives.
Right.
And if I can be a role model to them, then there's nothing else I'd rather be.
Exactly. And they were able to see it from a different aspect, right?
Yeah.
They were able to see, the fact that, it took you so much longer to get here. It was painful.
There was a lot involved, a lot of naps. A lot of naps,
a lot of, they were able to see, hey, the bag would get changed out and such. Or
everything.
Or, mm-hmm. Get it hooked on a drawer in the kitchen.
I know. But it's all good. Because, it's my experience.
It is.
Good, bad, and ugly. I'll embrace it.
Yep.
And if I can write a story that's a positive one, then I've done the right thing.
No, I think you've 100% done the right thing. And I think it's a very positive story. And I commend you for sharing your story with other people.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me share it with you, all of our listeners. And I know it's not so Livingston County, but this is kind of just maybe living, right? That's half of the battle.
Yes.
And it's a privilege to do it. So thanks for listening. and joining us. And I hope you have a chance to listen to other episodes too. We definitely have a lot of, if you're interested in health and wellness, we've had some great episodes in the past, and we'll have some future ones as well.
Yeah, there's some great companies in Livingston County that deal a lot with health and wellness, and there's so many great resources out there. And we've had quite a few of them on our show, and I'm sure we'll have more of them on our show. But just thank you guys so much for listening today. And
welcome to Livingston.